Today we're going to talk about one of the most important techniques used in the modern AI system called Retrieval Augmented Generation, RAG. My name is Success Ojo and I am from GMind Academy. AI models, they are incredibly powerful, but there is a hidden problem. Even the most advanced AI models, they can sometimes give confident answers that are completely wrong. So the question becomes, how do we make AI system more reliable, more accurate, and more capable of working with real-world information? The simple answer is known as Retrieval Augmented Generation, or simply RAG. Today we will understand how RAG works and why it has become a foundation of modern AI system. But before we understand RAGs, we must first understand why AI model fails. There are 4 major limitations that actually make AI system to fail, most especially the big foundational model. First is knowledge cutoff. AI models, they are trained on data that stops at a particular point in time. And anytime that happens after the dates, it simply doesn't exist for the model. What will happen? What will happen is they continue to give answers, or they continue to form answers, or doesn't even have any answer to give. Second is hallucination. Sometimes the model generates answers that sound very convincing, but they are actually incorrect. And so they will just continue to say what is actually wrong, but they will say it very convincingly and confidently. Third, they don't have access to private data. Just like a model like ChatGPT cannot see your company's internal documents, or they cannot see your databases or your proprietary information. And so they cannot give any factual answer. What they will give are generic answers. Fourth, no built-in verification. The model cannot automatically check whether its answer is correct. So these 4 limitations make AI models risk in production environment. So the question becomes, how do we allow AI to be reliable, up-to-date, domain-specific knowledge? This is exactly why Retrieval Augmented Generation, this is exactly what it solves. Because if the AI is in the environment and it cannot actually give factual, relevant, industry or company-specific information, then that AI becomes a risk in the environment. And so with Retrieval Augmented Generation, it makes AI to be able to serve the people within the enterprise and also be able to have domain-specific knowledge. Now let us talk about RAG. What is RAG? Okay? RAG is simply Retrieval Augmented Generation, which is an architectural pattern that combines 2 capabilities, retrieval and generation. So when a user has a question, the system will searches the external sources such as the documents, knowledge bases, share folder, databases to retrieve the most relevant information. When a query arrives, the system will searches every possible place where it is being connected, or even an API to fetch the most semantically relevant pages. Real-time documents local, sound-grounded context. And after that, it will now try as much as possible to do the second thing, which is generation. So the retrieved information is then passed to the language model. The language model will now use that context to generate an answer that is grounded in real information rather than guesswork. So the retrieved context is injected into the model and alongside the original query, allowing the LLM to produce an answer that is grounded in real verifiable information. The information will be context-aware responses, citable and traceable outputs, and dramatically fewer hallucination. And what will happen? It will make the information to be accurate, more reliable, and always current. Think of it like this. Instead of asking a student to answer a question from memory, we allow that student to look up the most relevant textbook pages before answering. And what will be the result? It is more likely to be more accurately verifiable and trustworthy. And that is exactly RAG. Because it's just make AI model to be very, very reliable, to be very verifiable, accurate, and at the same time to have dramatically fewer hallucinations. To truly understand RAG, we must understand the pipeline behind it. That means what is behind the hood. The pipeline happens in two phases. The first phase is indexing phase. This is where the system prepares its knowledge base. Documents are collected from sources like the PDF, data pages, wikis. This document will now be broken down into smaller segments that we call chunks. Each chunks will now be converted into embeddings. These embeddings, they are stored in where is known as vector database. Now comes the second phase, which is the query phase. So when a user asks a question, the question will also be converted into embedding as well. But the vector database will now searches for the most semantically similar chunks. Those chunks are retrieved and injected into the prompt given to the language model. Finally, what will happen? The model will now generate a grounded, answer, or let me say a grounded response to the user. So if you look at it, the process from document ingestion to answer generation, it is what we call RAG pipeline. Now let us quickly look into this diagram. From the moment that the documents are collected from sources, then the documents will now be broken down into smaller segments that we call chunks. Then each of the chunks will now be converted into numerical representation that we call embedding. Then it will now be stored in a vector database. That's the first phase. Now the second phase is the query itself. When a user asks a question, then what will happen? That query itself will also be turned into embedding as well. Then when the vector searches the database, it will now get the most similar chunks. Then these chunks, they will be injected into the prompt and given to the language model. And what will now happen? Then finally, the model will now generate a grounded response. And that is exactly what these documents actually represent. With everything said so far, we now see why RAG is powerful, because it allows AI system to connect with real organizational knowledge. Companies can connect AI models to their internal documents, policies, research papers, contracts, support tickets, technical manuals. So instead of guessing answers, the AI retrieve actual knowledge before responding. And what will actually happen? The AI will be able to have access to enterprise knowledge sources. They'll be able to have access to research and domain expertise, private and proprietary data. And it's going to reduce hallucination by over 90%. And it's also going to make retraining required to be almost zero, and the knowledge will be infinite. So I'm telling you, no retraining will actually be required, because the AI can simply update its knowledge base and the system instantly becomes smarter. And let me tell you, with RAG, the system will have access to unlimited knowledge scale. Organizations can index millions of documents across departments and languages. And this is why RAG has become one of the most widely architectures in enterprise AI today. RAG is very useful, and it makes our AI to be very smart, to be knowledge or domain experts, and at the same time to be able to be embedded into our private and proprietary data. And that is all we're going to actually be looking at in this context, in this lesson. If you have any questions, please send it over. Thank you.